Will he kick us out? Feng Ling, boss is not here. Kay was surprised. Really? He thought that after boss brought Feng Ling here, he didn't allow her to go out and hid Feng Ling to take care of her alone, but he was not here. He should have gone out to deal with something. Boss is not an idle person. This time, because of me, he will probably be busy for a while. Feng Ling said and turned to walk in. Come in. After confirming that boss was really not here, they quickly rushed in. In the blink of an eye, there were only a few people sitting on the sofa and carpet. The boys in the sniper team directly lay on the carpet or sat down. Xiao Su and Xiao Fei sat on the sofa on the other side. Kay sent Feng Ling's suitcase to the bedroom door before returning to find a place to sit down. Not long after, they got up and walked around the room. When Feng Ling said that there was a room with fitness equipment inside, they went in. Xiao Su also got up and looked around this place. He knew that Boss Li lived here, but he had never had a chance to come in. This time, thanks to Feng Ling, he could personally visit Boss's residence outside. How is the wound on your head? When Feng Ling went to the fridge to find fruit to cut for them to eat, Xiao Fei walked into the kitchen. Looking at her back, he could tell that she was wearing Li Nanheng's clothes. Much better. After the surface wound heals in a few days, I may go to the hospital for a simple examination. I have rested well these days. It's not as serious as you think, Feng Ling said while cutting the fruit. How could it not be serious? Although the surveillance footage of her accident in the military area was not spread in the base, the members of the sniper team all saw it. When they learned that Feng Ling was almost insulted by that damn fatty, they were so angry that they wished they could go back to that day and go to the military area to fight with her. Especially when she was hit against the wall several times. If she really didn't resist in the end, she might really die there. Xiao Fei walked over and looked at her clothes. There should be something you want in the suitcase Kay sent you. Didn't Boss Li notice anything when you walked around in front of him dressed like this? Feng Ling's hand holding the knife paused. She turned to look at him and thought for a while before saying, Boss and I don't live in the same room. We take showers and do other things separately. Except for eating, we sit at the same table and don't get too close to each other. How could he notice? She had been hiding in the base for so many years. Did she think everything could be so simple to cover up? Although Boss Li didn't say it clearly, he obviously knew it or had been guessing. It was impossible that he didn't know anything at all. Xiao Fei sighed and reached out to take the knife in her hand. There's no need to cut the fruit. They won't eat it even if you cut it. Just leave it. They are all here to see you. It's good that you are fine. Feng Ling nodded and withdrew her hand when he took the knife. She did not touch his hand. Xiao Fei glanced at her hand and then thought that she didn't seem to dislike living with Boss Li at all, so he knew something. Get well soon and return to the base as soon as possible. I will leave the base in a few months. It's time to go home. There won't be many opportunities to see you in the future, Xiao Fei said softly. Every once in a while, there would be people leaving the base because their time in the base was up, or they had to leave early because of family matters, or they were selected by the military or the police to work outside. In short, departure was inevitable. But Feng Ling didn't expect Xiao Fei to leave so early. Usually he was either at the base or returning to the Li family to deal with some urgent matters. He never stayed in other places for long. She had no chance to see him at all, and after he refused to marry her, she didn't even have a chance to talk to him. In the middle of the night, a man and a woman alone. There's really no need to go in. Li Nanheng didn't mean to move away from the door, nor did he give her a chance to take the opportunity to enter the door. He just said coldly, if you have something to say, say it here. Feng Mingzhu looked at him, and the smile and excitement in her eyes gradually cooled, but the love in her eyes was still so obvious. She clenched the bag in her hand, and at this moment, her temper completely disappeared, leaving only the shyness and unconcealable love of a little woman. I just want to come to see you. Although she had a lot of things to say, Feng Mingzhu knew that he hated troublesome women who talked too much, so she could only hold it in. She just wanted to open up a channel of communication with him, and not be unable to see him again. You've seen me. Can you go now? Li Nanheng really had no patience for women like Feng Mingzhu, and his eyes were full of impatience. Chapter 943. Boss Li didn't need anyone to worry about him at all. But now she was actually worried about him. She knew that this feeling was not because she was worried that something would happen to him, but because of another kind of concern that she didn't particularly understand. After letting her imagination run wild for some time, she finally fell asleep in a daze. The next morning, Feng Ling did some simple physical training. Seeing that the weather outside was good today, she was really bored at home alone, and there was still no news from Li Nanheng. She sent him a text message asking when he would come back, but he didn't reply. At 12 o'clock, Feng Ling put on her coat and went out, but she remembered what Boss Li said. Don't leave the community. If you want to eat or buy something, there are 2 24-hour convenience stores in the community, so you don't have to go too far. She first went to the floor downstairs, which was the apartment that Li Nanheng said belonged to her. She opened the door and took a look. As expected, the decoration style was very simple. Because no one had lived in it, even though the decorations on the walls were very beautiful and clean, she felt that she could hear the echo of her breath when she stood inside. This place only lacked furniture and appliances. And this apartment was just below his apartment. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the same street view as above. Even though Feng Ling didn't ask these days, she knew that this apartment was a very expensive place in Los Angeles. It was definitely a place where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. However, the little money she earned probably couldn't even afford the down payment. After walking around here, she felt that it was not as interesting as upstairs. She turned and went out. Instead of going upstairs, she took the elevator down and planned to go to the convenience store to buy some noodles. When Boss Lee was not around, she couldn't always eat takeout. Although she wasn't very good at cooking, after all, she had never had the opportunity to cook since she was a child, she still knew how to boil noodles. Anyway, after it was cooked, she could buy some ready-made seasonings and mix it. Feng Ling walked out of the apartment. As soon as she stepped out of the door, she saw 2 people coming in. Seeing the 2 people coming toward her, Feng Ling's expression instantly changed from calm to indifference. Although there was no change on the surface, her eyes were much colder. The 2 people approaching the apartment were Feng Mingzhu and Qin Shuk. The moment she saw Feng Ling, Qin Shuk's eyes lit up. Ah, little brother, you're really here. Feng Ling glanced at them. She didn't really understand the thoughts between women, but she could tell that Qin Shuk's personality was carefree and simple, while Feng Mingzhu was a very smart person. Chapter 956. The man's handwriting was vigorous and powerful. He didn't look like the boss of a base who had been playing with guns and sticks for so many years. Instead, he looked like a scholar or a business elite. When Feng Ling was a child, she learned some things from the mafia. There was a Chinese man who would teach her how to read and some simple knowledge. Later, when she was in the orphanage, she occasionally attended classes, but she didn't learn much. She wasn't very cooperative. After arriving at the base, Han Jin introduced her to a cultural teacher in the base and specially arranged some courses for her. In addition to training, he would teach her a lot of things. As time went by, Feng Ling gradually made up for a lot of knowledge that she had missed when she was a child. There were many young people who entered the base at a very young age, so there would be special cultural teachers to teach them. Feng Ling was also the best in this aspect and was most liked by the teachers. There were not only boorish men in the base, but even boorish men would not be illiterate. The rules in the base were quite good. At least, Feng Ling could read these Chinese and English clearly. Looking at the signature Li Nanheng signed, whether it was Chinese or English, it was very beautiful. What are you looking at? Li Nanheng hung up the phone and came back. When he entered the study, he saw that Feng Ling was flipping through those documents. Feng Ling put down the documents and turned back to look at the man in home clothes. I just glanced at them casually. There shouldn't be a problem, right? She didn't see any secrets that she couldn't see, so her expression was very calm. It's nothing, but what were you looking at so seriously just now? When the man approached, Feng Ling momentarily forgot to avoid him. When she was enveloped by the man's aura, and when he suddenly leaned forward, she abruptly staggered backward and leaned against the edge of the table. She rushed to support herself with her hands on the edge of the table and tried her best to move backward to avoid the man's approaching face. Seeing that she was avoiding him, Li Nanheng didn't say much, but he didn't let her go either. He casually put his hands on both sides of her body, as if inadvertently pressing them against her hands, and lowered his eyes to look at her, carefully avoiding him. Seeing that she really couldn't avoid him, Feng Ling looked away and said, No, I didn't see anything. I just saw that your handwriting is very beautiful, boss. Li Nanheng lowered his head to look at the documents in her hand. Really? She dragged out her last syllable because of this posture. I just suddenly remembered that, boss, you entered the base when you were young. Did you also learn your cultural classes in the base? Li Nanheng looked at her. What? You don't know anything about what I've learned and experienced. Do you want to find out? Feng Ling pursed her lips. No. If you're tired, use your fingers. I'll find a way to keep you awake, okay? Li Nanheng said as he reached out to pull her clothes. Feng Ling leaned into his arms and did not struggle or move. She allowed him to untie her black uniform and then silently lifted her bitten arm. She was wearing a loose t-shirt with short sleeves. When he rolled up the sleeves, he could see the purple blisters on her shoulder. Blisters appeared around the purplish wound, and blood seeped out of the wound. Feng Ling's body turned from cold to feverish. She trembled uncontrollably and seemed to have a slight cramp. How long have you been bitten? The man asked in a deep voice as he checked her wound. I don't know. About a minute or two after they shot at my tent. Although Feng Ling's eyes were half open and she seemed to be unconscious, and her voice was so weak that he had to lean his ears close to her to hear her clearly, at least she was still trying to stay awake. She really wanted to say that there was no need to be so troublesome. If he was alone, it might be easier to find a way to leave, but if he wanted to take her away with him, who was currently weak, it would be even more difficult. However, there was one thing she was very sure of. Even if there was no signal on their phones, fortunately, their phones were cut off at this position, and if they never recovered, 11 Base would definitely notice and come to rescue them as soon as possible. She just didn't know if she could hold on when they came. She wanted to speak, but she saw that Li Nanheng had cut off the parts of the broken vines that would stab his hand and then threw them to her hand. Feng Ling suddenly frowned because she saw that when Li Nanheng's back was facing her, she saw a faint blood stain on the back of his black uniform. Right now her sense of smell was almost numb. Earlier she didn't smell any blood, but now she remembered. Li Nanheng, do you want me to kill you? That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.